Welcome to East Coast DNA. Today's guest, not necessarily a strong East Coast connection here. Some of our followers will realize I've been expanding a little bit, making it a little bit more of a CanCon podcast, which I've referenced a few times more recently. But definitely a Canadian artist. So want to welcome Abby J. Hall. Hello, Abby.
Hey, thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
So we may as well address that right off the bat. You're calling in today from Ontario,
Yeah, I'm in Burlington, so it's like half an hour outside of Toronto or 45 minutes, depending on traffic.
and now you are a fairly young, up and coming artist, but I do realize that you have had quite a bit of experience already at your young age. So you started with music around the age of 11.
Yeah, I started kind of like taking, I feel like songwriting more seriously. I always like to make up like little melodies with my siblings around the house. And then when I was 11, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna write a full song. And then I honestly was like hooked ever since.
Amazing. So is that all like your entire lifespan in the Ontario area? Are you born and raised in the Burlington area or?
I was born in like Dundas. I don't know if you've
Okay,
heard.
yeah.
Yeah, I was born in Dundas and then spent a good amount of time in Mississauga until I was probably 10 and then moved to Burlington after that. So yeah, majority of spent in Ontario.
hmm Comparable to like province wise, like Ontario's a wider land mass.
Mm.
So the geographic area that you moved around in would be similar to somebody being on the East Coast and just staying in their small network of provinces over here too. So I'm sure
Yeah,
it's relatable where you're outside of the major metropolis as well.
yeah, I'll go like to travel, but I've only like lived in probably within like yeah, an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you find as a young musician that having that in proximity that it affords you opportunities? Like one thing I really specifically want to go to, just to kind of give you context of where I'm getting at. I'm aware that despite you just now having your debut EP,
Mhm.
you also have had success over the years with getting placement so that you've had features and ads and television. And I'm just kind of curious at how you were able to work that in as a young musician. Is that proximity to a major metropolis, or do you have a good network behind the scenes helping you already?
Well, I feel like Toronto is like it has a really great music scene. And I knew like probably for a few years I've been like, oh, I'd love to get into TV and film as well. And so I started going to like conferences or if I ever saw like there were any sync talks or meeting with supervisors, I just kind of went into Toronto or Hamilton or wherever there was something being hosted for TV and film
Mhm.
and started making connections and just reaching out on email and just yeah, just going for it and seeing what happens. And it's something that I've loved to work on and what I'd love to get more into as well.
And so now that is something I do find interesting. Maybe you wouldn't have the context for it. For an East Coast musician in a similar position,
Yeah.
it's not as easy to drive into Toronto. And despite
Mm.
the facts that we do, like I'm in Nova Scotia, so I'll use Halifax as the example.
Yeah.
It's only an hour and a half, 2 hour drive for me. And for quite a few people in the province, Halifax is definitely doable, but also doesn't afford as many opportunities. There are opportunities, but usually if you're down in this region, you need to work through somebody to get those opportunities. Somebody that's putting the effort in to find those opportunities for you to be able to kind of make that marriage happen. But
Yeah.
do you have family that was able to help you with that, or you're just a real keen person to go out there and find your own opportunities?
With TV and film, it was really me driven because I just was like, you know what, I want to find a way. I'm also a part-time video editor, so I really
Okay.
love like the combination of like music and sound together. And as a songwriter, I was like, that would just be really fun to be able to work in that industry. And I had the choice like out of high school to like go to school or just kind of pursue on my own. And I just started looking at the opportunities I could do on my own and just, yeah, just started reaching out. I honestly feel like Toronto is probably a great place to visit, but also the majority of the TV and film stuff that I worked on was like through COVID when a lot of
Hmm.
people were not even meeting. So that's what's so great about nowadays is so many people do online or like record send vocals. I've done that a lot too, where I just record the vocals at home and we'll send off to producers, which is yeah, I feel like people not always, I mean, but they check emails more than
Yeah. I guess
yeah.
the technological advances that we made, it's I mean, we all, anybody that's lived through it as an adult is aware that we had the technology all along. Like it existed
Mhm.
before all the lockdowns, but the stuff that we've adopted over the last couple of years really has kind of leveled the playing field as far as what I was just getting to. Like, you don't necessarily have to hop in your car and go for a drive for all those auditions. You can,
Mhm.
your point, build a digital profile to start applying for things like that. Now, you did just mention something that I was not aware of, but it was related to something I did want to ask you about, where you're really pushing your new material now. I know that in the press release for the EP, it mentioned that there was two new songs. I was like, but there's seven songs, so I just did the math in reverse. Like, so there's five old songs. But when I go back and look, your Spotify discography has way more singles than that. So
Mm.
there's a couple that didn't make the cut as far as putting together for that package, but you've been doing this for quite some time. And when I checked out your YouTube channel, I do see that there's content going back quite a few years.
Mm.
So is that because of besides the fact that you're obviously self-motivated, you mentioned being part-time video editor. So is it the do-it-yourself aspect that made it possible for you to get content out there early?
I think I just knew probably like out of high school, I just knew that music was something that I wanted to
Hmm.
pursue and try, and I definitely made like a lot of mistakes along the way. I'm sure I'm still learning so much, but I know that it's something that I love and I'm loving the journey of it so far. So, yeah, I think I released my first song probably in 2017, I
Hmm.
think. Didn't know very much back then, but it's cool to see like the full circle now, kind of being able to have a bunch of different songs just come together and put out a bigger body of work than just the singles. But yeah, I feel like I'm always still learning and growing and hopefully continue to keep evolving.
And for recording, like on the audio end specifically, I guess,
Yeah.
did you do those early recordings yourself, or did you have somebody that recorded that for you?
The first recording, there's a place in Waterdown. I don't actually remember the name of it now. Youth Unlimited, I think,
Okay.
that had like a little like recording studio that I would like go into. And then there's also B-Town Sound that I did some recordings at. But the first song, Busy, that I released was with a band that I met at a music competition.
Hmm.
They had all the recording equipment and yeah, we just kind of got together and recorded that. That was the first time ever releasing a song. It was just in there like a home studio.
Oh, that's cool. And that was as a submission for the contest?
The yeah, so it was a music competition I feel like I did when I was like 16, 17,
Yeah.
and the top 10 got to perform with this band for
Cool.
this fundraising show.
Mhm.
And we just became like fast friends. And yeah, that's how I met them. I'm actually performing with them this coming weekend for my EP release party. So it's fun to see like this full circle. Yeah, they're great
Amazing. So you obviously have been building your network over the years and keeping people close if you're still working with some of the same people. Have you also, where you do like to do things yourself, Have you been learning some of those things on your own so that you're able to record yourself? Like originally you were going to those places and now you're recording demos to send off to people. So do you have some form of home studio now?
Yeah, so this EP actually was recorded with Tal Weisman in Toronto in his home studio. And then also one of the songs was recorded in Nashville, but honestly feel like with the TV and film stuff that has really thrown me into the deep end of learning
Yeah.
to record myself because I always am like getting better at producing is something that's like always up there for me, but sometimes when there's a project coming in and they're like, "Can you do this?" I'm just gonna be like, "Yeah," and figure it out. So
Yeah.
it's been a good way to kind of, because you almost can always prep to be ready and always be like, I'm not ready yet until there's something that happens and they're like, no, we need it now. And you're like, okay.
That's kind of been a common theme on a few of my recent episodes too with artists is the time to do something is now.
Hmm.
Regardless of whatever it is that's holding you back. Like if you have something you want to do, just do it now.
Yeah.
And to
Yeah.
your point, I mean, it's scary and sometimes figuring it out on the fly doesn't always work
Yeah.
out, but it definitely is good advice to keep it. The worst thing in the world is to sit on an idea and then live with the disappointment of never trying.
Whoa.
I would
Yeah.
rather fail than never have tried. So I
I love
like that there seems to be a common mindset out there in the greater arts world in Canada. So definitely keep up the optimism with that.
it.
Now, you do seem, just from the little bit that we talked about, like somebody that would have done a lot of work behind the scenes to put your stuff together between video editing and recording with different people. But I am curious where this is just your debut coming out now. Aside from the upcoming release party, what's your experience been like performing live?
Ooh, I love performing live shows, but I would say I'm definitely more at home and happy like in the studio and writing. So the live shows, I feel like I'm very like selective with the ones I do. I used to like play anything, like everything that I
Hmm.
could be, like bars and coffee shops. I would kind of like do it all. And now I'm just kind of like getting into my groove of like where I like to be. And so I'll like be more selective with the shows that I play. But um yeah, I love performing live. I love connecting with people and like having conversations based around the music and it's just a whole other like world. Just even playing with like a live band and everything coming
Hmm.
to life in front of your eyes is just, yeah, I do love that aspect. And I feel like if I were to do honestly like another album, I'd want to do like all live instruments too. It'd be so fun.
Oh yeah, that would be amazing. Now, I am curious since we're talking about that already too. What are the chances that we're going to get you down my way? There's our East Coast connection for the episode too. How are we going to get you down here to perform at some point in the future?
I love the East Coast. Like I actually was just the other day, I was like, I want to go back to where in the East Coast are you exactly?
I'm in Nova Scotia. I'm a couple hours from Halifax, but I'm also this almost the same distance from Moncton, New Brunswick. So it's kind of a weird, even though I'm Nova Scotia, it's Cape Breton's even closer. So I'm in a weird nexus point in this area where I can get to, and the PEI ferry is a 20-minute drive from here. So
It's so fun.
yeah, it's an ideal location if you want to do touristy stuff in this
Mhm.
area. Is that for a day trip, I can pretty much, unless I want to spend a lot of time in Newfoundland, pretty much everything else I can just get to that day.
That's so cool. I
So
would love
where have you been down here?
I've been to PEI a few times, Nova
Yeah,
Scotia as well. And I think New Brunswick, but I haven't been to like Newfoundland and Labrador yet.
sure. Well, you should come down and visit us then. We have our East Coast Music Awards there this year too, so
Oh
good
yeah.
time for you to come down and meet the cream of the crop down here. So,
Yeah, I'm the food is so good too. Like the potato
yeah,
and fish and everything. Oh my goodness. Lobster.
yeah, it's we're spoiled. Those of us that live here, it's seafood isn't even that big of a deal to most people that around here that I know, just because we've always had it available to us. So it is it is interesting.
It's such
I was stumped the other day with an artist that was here and asked me where a good place was to get seafood locally. Apologize to local businesses. I blanked. So where have you gotten out west? Have you been able to travel outside of Ontario as far as musical?
Yeah, I go to BC quite often because I have a really good friend that's out there.
Hmm.
So I've been able to go there to the island as well, which is really fun. But I haven't spent a lot of time in like the prairie provinces in between, just kind of passing through.
Yeah, I think that those regions are similar to my area where it's hard to financially make it feasible to hit all of the small communities when you're doing a big length because there's so much overhead to actually travel between all those communities.
Mhm.
But there's always the future, and you just have your debut EP out. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about the EP, and I guess we should also talk about specifically your release party that's coming up this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Vital Signs is like a combination of songs. Some have been written 5 years ago, some were written this within this past year. And I really wanted the overall feeling of the album to be like about letting go, stepping into a new season of life, and using production like elements to capture that as well. And yeah, that's kind of the overall feel for it. It's produced by Tal Vasman, and yeah, Chad Howat did a song in my dreams, and yeah.
So the overall, I always say this at the beginning when I get into this part is that I don't like using genres, but I have to find a way to kind of describe it. So like overall, I would put you in a pop category.
Yeah, I would agree.
But I am curious too, where you talked about kind of being more comfortable on the studio end and
Mhm.
then talking about performing with a band. Do you think that as time progresses and you perform more live, that the instrumentation piece of your music will evolve a little bit, where you maybe would rely less on post-production recording techniques and maybe lean a little heavier into some of the studio musicians or your bandmates?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I'm always open to try like different elements and like different genres. I feel like I really love like the singer-songwriter folk genre too.
Hmm.
And with the band, honestly, just working with Tal has been just really fun. And he just, that's just like we did a lot of, like you're saying, the post-production
Hmm.
all in the box, which is so crazy that you can record so many different songs and make it sound like there's like a lot more going on. But I love the idea of doing like a full band. I feel like that would be such a fun project. It'd probably be a longer project, but
Yeah.
have you heard of Lizzie McAlpine before?
I know the name, but I wouldn't be able to state a bunch of facts.
Yeah, so she released an album called Older, and that was like the entire process. It was like all live session musicians that came
Cool.
in and they just like spent like a good amount of time just like going through these songs. And she also performs at her concert like all almost like a studio setting, and they're all just like
Yeah.
in. And I really like that. So that would be really cool.
I'm obviously somebody that likes live music if anyone follows my YouTube channel, but I'm also a big fan of a really well produced recording.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated by the transition between the two because I realize each artist has their own strengths and weaknesses, but it's more so like strengths and opportunities, like not just that's kind of a weird way of putting it that's people use it all the time, but it really is in this case is that you're really good at one part and the other part's just something that you're working on until you get them on par with
Mhm.
each other. But I do see that people that spend a lot of time working on the recording or maybe even better part to focus on too is like the early opportunities for sync licensing.
Mm.
That it's the opposite for a lot of people that I talk to, where they played in their bedroom or their garage, and then it's for some family events, and then they're hitting all of those gigs that you're talking about, like the coffee shops and the pubs and everything, trying to earn enough money to keep it going, keep it going. They get to the point where they're like, how can I get some sync licensing so I can make a couple extra bucks to make the pressure of hitting the road so much a little alleviated? People like yourself that follow the opposite path are doing the opposite, where you're like, okay, I know how to get placement for the most part. I mean, some of the aspects of it, it's still like a lottery. There's only so many opportunities.
Yeah.
And you know how to get a really good recording and collaborate with people, and you have a network and support. Obviously, you know the right people to get your message out there, or you wouldn't have even met me over here on the East Coast.
Mm.
So you have all of that, but now you're trying to get your feet wet out there a little bit more with some live performances and explore a little bit what kind of opportunity that would afford you to play with a band. I'm fascinated by the variants because I know people that are doing completely opposite things, but they really are a mirror reflection of each other. So
Mm.
it is really cool to get to talk to everybody across the country that have all these different careers, but I do really think that maybe the proximity to a big city like Toronto does afford some of that opportunity.
Mm.
But it is a huge curiosity for me with that, how it does not also really make it necessary for you to constantly be playing live because there's such a huge, dense population of people. How do you get local people to be aware of who Abby J. Hall is? Like if you're in a small town, you play outside the town hall or at a community center or whatever community events come up. But like, I don't know how an artist like yourself that's up and coming gets that kind of foothold in the perception of your local population. Do you have any insight on that, or you're not even sure yourself?
Yeah, I feel like the crazy thing about like obviously the music career, like you're saying, there's so many different paths that you can take, and everyone does have a really unique story of how they're making it essentially.
Hmm.
But I feel like that's why, like for me, it is honestly, it is a constant like journey. Like I would not say I've arrived in any way, or I'm like this crazy, like I feel like I'm always learning and taking opportunities that I can. And I feel like locally, yeah, I mean, I've played like the Burlington has like a Burlington Sound and Music Festival.
Okay.
So I'll play like those type of festivals or like Rib Fest and different events like that. But I love also like branching out like further to like Toronto, or even I spent some time in LA last November. And I like the idea of starting to do some more work down in the States as well. Um,
Yeah,
but
you
yeah,
mentioned Nashville as well.
yeah. I also, yeah, one of the producers on the EP lives in Nashville, so we recorded there.
Amazing. So those opportunities are also amazing opportunities for you to have, but that is something that you're looking to explore in the future is maybe a little bit of travel to
Yeah.
find different collaborators out there in the world.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like there's just so much more, I don't know, opportunity out there and to just I don't know. I'm definitely still like I don't know how it's all gonna play out, but I'm
Hmm.
loving the journey so far.
And for if there's an opportunity for people to listen to this, I'm not sure. I'm not looking at the calendar. If they have the opportunity to listen to this before your release party, it's this coming Saturday, October 5th.
Yeah.
So, do you want to tell people a little bit what you have planned there? I know you have some special guests that were included on the album, and yeah,
Yeah,
maybe give people an idea on where they can go and who they're checking out for the night.
yeah, for sure. It's the EP party will be at the Burlington Performing Arts Centre. I was looking at some venues in Toronto, but I really wanted to keep it like local to where I'm from. So they're an amazing venue, great staff, and I played there a few times, so I knew that the sound would be covered and sound good.
Hmm.
And then I have CJ Cooper and Floating Mansions opening, and they're both very talented and wonderful humans. And then yeah, I'll be playing with the live band, going through the EP and also some new songs and some old songs as well. And we're also raising money for breast cancer.
Yes, and now that's something that has affected you personally with your family. I believe it was your mother.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom got diagnosed with breast cancer 2 years ago, but she overcame it. She still has a surgery coming up, but she's amazing. She amazes me. And so thought it'd be a good opportunity to get a bunch of people together and just yeah, raise some money for a cause. And I'm so thankful for her. She's helped me a ton with just like being encouraging and yeah, thought
It's
it'd be
it's it's amazing that you're able to actually early on too, like you're just doing a debut and you're able to kind of give that support back
hmm.
right at the beginning of a music career that I'm sure with this EP out there and the people that you have supporting you, that people are going to hear your name a lot more in the future. What do you yourself has as goals? Maybe not for 2024. I'm assuming it was releasing the EP,
Yeah.
but going into 2025, is there anything that you've really set your sights on to motivate yourself to keep going?
Yes, I think I would love to um do like be an opener for an act and like go on tour would be really fun. I also really want to write for like a feature film movie
Yeah.
or a Disney movie one day.
hmm
I
And
feel like that.
now, where you've had some experiences, I suppose that's you already have a little bit of a portfolio to build on. So those are actually achievable things to do within the next year too.
Gonna hope and pray, yeah. I think
So
it's
do
possible.
you have music videos that you're planning to go along with the EP as well?
Yeah, I actually, okay, so for the song The Observer, I really wanted to do a music video like from the beginning, but just like different plans weren't falling into place. But then I ended up shooting and editing it with two of my friends. Honestly, last week we had like a week of like shooting, and the
hmm
three of us like were in my friend who's a cinematographer. We just like were at his house and like edited this thing for 4 days. It's for it to be out on time for the EP party. So I'm actually going to be showing it at the EP party as well. So I'm so glad that all
Cool.
came together. That was a hilarious but satisfying process. I'm glad we got it all done.
It's amazing. Like, I don't think anybody realizes if they haven't done it before how time consuming it is to edit a video.
Yeah.
But it is also at the same time, it's amazing how when people are given a time crunch, stuff that they could pull off.
No, you're so right.
It is spectacular.
Yeah, I think you're so right. I think when there's like you think you have so much time, it's like, oh, I'll get to it later, and then you're like, oh no, we gotta go.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to follow your journey, as long as you're going to be out there touring, and if you have any other future music videos that you maybe want to give people a little bit of notification on, Instagram, I'm assuming, would be a good place for people to follow you.
Yeah, Instagram is great. Instagram, TikTok. You can subscribe on YouTube if you want. Spotify. Although you don't really post on Spotify, but
Oh, you,
Instagram.
if people follow you on Spotify, they'll still get some extra notifications, and I recommend this to anyone independent as well. That you can get notifications put in there through like Bands in Town or something like that that will actually give your concert listings
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
people that are in the areas that you're going to. So
That's
if you were coming down on the East Coast, it would notify me as a follower that you're going to be playing here in Nova Scotia or something along those lines.
fantastic. Cool.
So there's definitely that opportunity. I don't know. Spotify's tried a lot of different things over the last couple of years. This podcast originally was just an audio podcast, and then very quickly we got into a video format that
Mm.
Spotify allowed us to use right at the beginning. So we were one of the beta users for the video podcast format in there. So
No way. Are you liking it?
I do like it. I'm not a huge fan of Spotify's payment structure. I realize not any artist out there is a fan of it, but I will definitely say I like the tool in general. It's something that I use all the time, and I've been doing this podcast for a couple of years through it, so I really can't complain about my own personal experience using it. But I don't have any of this content monetized either, so I'm not really too focused on what kind of paycheck they have for me at the end of the day. As
Mm.
long as I can promote artists like yourselves and they're not giving me any limitations, I'll keep playing along with Spotify. And now, do you have your own web page as well, or it's the social
Yeah.
media?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do have a website as well, abbyjhall.com.
Okay, perfect. So we'll send people along to there as well. I definitely recommend people follow you on YouTube because I am a fan of music videos, and I'm sure you're
Okay,
going to have a
cool.
lot more content coming out. You already have quite a bit up there. Being this is a debut EP, as we mentioned, you had singles in the past, so there's older content on the YouTube channel. And anyone that's taking time to do that, make sure you hit subscribe on my YouTube channel, wherever the button may be here on the screen. And for people that are following along on Instagram, definitely follow East Coast DNA as well. And make sure that you follow Abby and click like and subscribe everywhere that she has her music released, which the EP itself is available for everybody now. And then the album release is this weekend. So by the time most people hear this, probably everything's available out there. So I definitely recommend everyone give her a follow. And Abby, in the future, keep us in mind. You don't have to be coming down here, but I'd love it if the email said, "Hey, I'm on my way to the East Coast."
Amazing.
I'll definitely be sure to keep an eye on your channels myself. I do want to see some of this video content after listening to the EP. I'm excited to see what you have as a pairing. And I will be keeping an eye out to see if you're going to be performing in my region anytime soon.
Amazing. I would love to. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much. And before I let you go for the day, is there a song from your debut that you would like to play off with to give people a taste of what Abby J. Hall has to offer?
Sure, let's play The Observer.
Amazing. All right. Thanks again, Abby. And for everyone still listening, stick around and listen to The Observer. Thanks.
Thank you.
California coast, who do you love most? Feel it on my skin. Something new begins, and I guess that it couldn't always stay the same, the same, the same, the same, the same. Maybe It's not a crime to put me first. I'm the observer. I'm the observer. And without you I'll get further. I'm the observer. It's me. Something happens when you take a step back, a chain reaction. Feel the wind rolling past, chips will fall, not at all up to me where they land. I'm not here to stop the hurt. My heart has always found the words. I'm the observer.